Donald Trump's presidency was unconventional, to say the least. But one thing that set him apart, perhaps more than anything else, was his unprecedented relationship with the truth. Or, more accurately, his lack thereof. From the moment he descended that escalator in Trump Tower, Trump unleashed a torrent of false and misleading statements, the likes of which America had never seen. These weren't just your run-of-the-mill political spin or exaggerations. We're talking about demonstrably false claims, often repeated even after being debunked. These falsehoods permeated every aspect of his presidency, from his policies to his personal life, leaving many Americans bewildered and questioning the very fabric of reality. It was like watching a magic show where the magician kept insisting the rabbit was actually gone, even as it twitched its ears from inside his hat, except in this case the disappearing act involved truth itself, and the consequences were far from entertaining. This wasn't just about Trump's personal integrity or lack thereof. It was about the erosion of a shared understanding of truth, a fundamental pillar of any functioning democracy. So, how do you even begin to measure the sheer volume of falsehoods uttered by Donald Trump? Thankfully, some brave souls took on the Herculean task of documenting his every misleading word. The Toronto Star, for example, meticulously tracked Trump's false claims throughout his presidency. Their findings were, to put it mildly, staggering. By the time he left office, Trump had racked up a jaw-dropping 30,573 false or misleading claims. That's not a typo. 30,573. It's a number so large it almost loses all meaning. Think about it this way. If Trump had made just one false claim a day, it would have taken him over 83 years to reach that number. But this was Trump. We're talking about one false claim a day, please. He treated truth like a bottomless buffet, indulging in falsehoods with reckless abandon. The sheer volume of these lies was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a fire hose of misinformation. It's no wonder so many people felt lost and confused. It was a deliberate tactic to overwhelm and disorient, to make people question what was real and what wasn't. If the total number of Trump's false claims is shocking, the frequency with which he churned them out is even more alarming. On average, Trump made over 21 false claims per day while in office. That's like having a toddler who tells you they didn't eat the cookies, even with crumbs on their face and chocolate smeared around their mouth, except again the stakes were much higher. Imagine trying to keep up with that level of deception. It was exhausting for fact-checkers, journalists, and anyone who dared to engage with Trump's pronouncements. It was like playing a never-ending game of whack-a-mole, with lies popping up faster than they could be debunked. This constant barrage of falsehoods had a numbing effect. It became easier to tune it out, to throw your hands up in exasperation and say, well, that's just Trump being Trump. But that's precisely the danger. When lying becomes normalized, it erodes our ability to distinguish truth from fiction, to hold our leaders accountable. Section 4. Calling a lie, the media's shift in reporting. For much of Trump's presidency, the media struggled to grapple with his blatant disregard for the truth. There was a reluctance to call a lie to avoid appearing biased or partisan. Instead, journalists often resorted to euphemisms like falsehood, misleading, or disputed. But by June 2019, something shifted. The sheer volume and audacity of Trump's lies had become impossible to ignore. Major news outlets, including CNN and the New York Times, began to explicitly label some of Trump's statements as lies. This was a significant moment. It signaled a recognition that Trump's behavior was not normal, that his relationship with truth was fundamentally broken. It was a long overdue acknowledgement of the elephant in the room, or perhaps more accurately, the bull in the china shop. Of course, Trump and his supporters cried foul, accusing the media of bias and unfair treatment. But the truth, as they say, is out there. And in Trump's case, the truth was often buried under an avalanche of lies. Section 5, indicted on false pretenses, Trump's legal battles and election lies. Trump's penchant for falsehoods caught up with him in a big way after he left office. On June 8, 2023, he was indicted on charges related to his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. The indictment specifically cited his repeated false claims about election fraud as evidence of his intent to defraud the United States. This was a watershed moment in American history. Never before had a former president been indicted for crimes related to trying to overturn an election. The indictment laid bare the fragility of American democracy and the very real threat posed by a leader who was willing to subvert the will of the people to cling to power. The indictment detailed numerous instances of Trump knowingly spreading false information about the election. He claimed, without evidence, that there was widespread voter fraud, that voting machines were rigged, and that he had actually won the election. These claims were repeatedly debunked by election officials, courts, and his own Attorney General. Trump's election lies weren't just harmless rhetoric, they fueled the January 6th insurrection, when a mob of his supporters stormed the US Capitol in a desperate attempt to prevent the certification of Joe Biden's victory. Section 6. Erosion of Trust. The lasting impact of Trump's falsehoods. The legacy of Donald Trump's presidency will be debated for years to come. But one thing is certain, his relentless assault on truth has left a lasting mark on American society. His falsehoods have eroded public trust in institutions, sown division among Americans, and undermined faith in democracy itself. When a leader so blatantly disregards the truth, it sends a message that facts don't matter, that reality is malleable, and that up is down and black is white. It creates a climate of cynicism and distrust where people are more likely to believe conspiracy theories and misinformation than they are to trust experts or evidence. Rebuilding trust in a post-Trump world will be a long and arduous process. It will require a collective effort to promote media literacy, to hold leaders accountable for their words and actions, and to reaffirm the importance of truth as a cornerstone of a functioning democracy. The alternative is a world where truth is whatever those in power say it is, where facts are irrelevant, and where democracy itself is at risk. And that's a reality we simply cannot afford.